Hello there. I've been absent for a minute. I decided to upload this morning because my stuff's just doing so good. By the way, I don't think you've ever seen this tank before, and this is my 3-gallon Pico tank. As you've probably noticed by now, there aren't really any fish in here. I just have a snail. Keeping this whole ecosystem going. I'm going to explain to you how you could have this as well, and why a fish in a little tank is probably a bad idea. So, as you've noticed, it's a little cube. It looks similar to the JBJ Nanos. It's not. Alright, this is a glowfish tank, or at least it was at one point, right? All it was, you know, the basket filter, which I don't have in there anymore, and the pump, their little return pump. I'm pretty sure the thing is only capable of about maybe 200 gallons an hour at maximum. You got 3 of those in here. Now that seems like a lot for a little tank, but let me just say, things are loving it. As you can see, star polyps are moving. I hope you like the new quality, by the way, and I'm hopeful that this uploads and translates to YouTube all right, because for one, I don't know what it was about my last upload, but it looked like someone took a freaking potato and put technology inside the thing and took a video with it. I kid you not. I don't know what happened there. So we're here on an iPhone 15, and I must say, I'm not using a filter lens, and it's looking really good. The colors are just how I see them, to be quite frank. Yeah, SPS in a Pico tank. Now, if you ask around, especially if you're a beginner and you go into any fish store and you explain away that you have a 3-gallon Pico tank and you point in an SPS coral, you may hear something along the lines of, that's not gonna do very well in there, or it's not gonna grow. It may just look pretty, or it loses color over time. Now, that's all true, but there are ways around it, and I'm gonna explain that here. First off, what I said in the beginning, fish in a tank smaller than 5 gallons for saltwater, I'm not saying it's impossible, but what I'm saying is you're really asking for an imbalance in that ecosystem, and very quickly. I mean, if that fish dies, regardless of its size, the tank water volume will quickly, and I mean quickly, become diluted with ammonias. And I'm telling you right now that it's a fat chance that you have enough bacteria on your sand and live rock in the little tank to handle such a load. And I've seen a lot of these tanks just go south very fast. And I'll be honest with you, this one has at some points, but a few ways around that. Now, if you're gonna house multiple corals in a little box of water, unless they're all, you know, the same genus, for example, like Stylophora, the green and the blue we have here, and then, you know, Montiporas, those will be fine. They don't really have warfare unless they're touching each other, or they can sense each other in the water. But what you really have to worry about is the soft coral. Now, Kenya tree, a lot of people don't know, with soft corals, their warfare involves releasing chemicals into the water that their neighboring corals may not like as much. Now, you can see, or maybe you can't, you can see how this Kenya tree has touched my bird's nest, and it's not killing it. Bird's nest looks great, but there's certainly some die-off right at the tips where it's touching the Kenya tree. Now, I'm sure that the Kenyan tree has a sting of some sort. Although you may not be able to feel it with your fingers, and when your fingers get close, it usually closes up on you anyways. Now, running carbon isn't gonna fix all of your problems, and that's where water changes come in. Now, to be honest with you, in such a little environment, it's very easy to overdo your water change. Now, you may scratch your head at that and think, overdoing a water change, isn't cleaning the tank good? No, it's not. Now, having no fish, there's actually a lot less detritus, aka food, for your corals and critters you can see here. Putting one snail in after a little bit of an algae bloom on the glass was enough to start the ecosystem. I'm kidding you not. And obviously maybe it had some help with the hitchhikers and whatnot in here. But you can get where I'm going with this. The amount of nutrients that have been introduced into the system already is enough to keep it going. Now, you can keep it going in a cycle, or you can continue feeding the tank and draining your water and wasting your money. Up to you. I have not done a water change on this tank in about a week. I'm using new salt water, I should say. I'll show you what I do. Now, there's a little bit of a film on the top. I like to run the level quite high because the green star polyp on the back is really taking off. Gotta watch my vent there. Look at all the copepods in there. But as I was saying, the film on the top is a good indicator of when to do a water change. Now, you take a feeder cup, the little, specimen cups we use in the hobby. I'm sure you've seen them before. You scoop about, I use this container, which is approximately, I can't find the water volume, but you get the point. It's not the entire tank volume, not even half the tank volume, okay? And there's a reason for that. If I were to put brand new clean salt water in here, first of all, I'd want to make sure that it is very well mixed, because if there's any salt particles in this little environment, it's only going to be able to mix in the environment here. Whereas if you were to dump a container of half mixed salt water like that into the back return chamber, it would actually mix in time in such a dilution of water before it returned back to your main display. Now, in saying that, this is a sumpless system, and all of the chemistry that you add to the tank is going to occur inside the display for the most part. You can add to the rear chamber, but it'll end up going in the return and spitting out into the display right away. So you kind of lose that leeway there with dosing, and making things too clean in the water could easily upset this. So taking some water from the display instead of draining, water change water from that, and then plopping it into here and then putting some brand new salt water into there. It's like doing a water change for this system while simultaneously doing one for this, and then I just discard the film water on the top. And it's really that easy, and I only honestly drain it down to there at the most. Now, there was a time where I had to do a flatworm exit on it, and I actually ended up draining it about half. But that's the furthest I've ever really gone, and I'm sure there's still some original water in here. Now let's talk about flow. As I was saying, there's a lot in here. It's your typical submersible fountain pump. I had to glue my suction cups to the glass because it kept falling, right? And now that little tube back there may look a little ugly, but it serves a good function. I have drilled holes all along it. The problem with these submersible fountain pumps is the inlet, or rather outlet, is so skinny a lot of the times, it's just a jet of water. Now if that were to hit directly onto a coral, they'd absolutely hate you. It's a lot more gentle coming out of my return. It comes towards the camera here, but before it can hit the glass, it is colliding with that guy. Now that creates a vortice right here, a swirling motion, and that will actually translate to vortices all around the aquarium. And if you add another source of random flow, I decided to take away the skinny inlet idea, added a tube with 4 drilled holes that you can't really see very well, blowing on the GSP back there. And as you can see, it's quite violent in here, or at least it seems. But the corals love it. It's a green hammer there, little gorgonian. You know, obviously the SPS corals. And they're just doing great. I mean, this one was half the size when I put it in here about 6 months ago. This one was not sprouting too like that. And you can see the white growth on the tips. As you can see, this green stylo is very vibrant. Had a little chipping incident somehow when I was cleaning and accidentally stung the hell out of my acropora. It's kind of a boring acro, never grew anyways. Not even in the 90 gallon. It was kind of a dud frag, to be honest with you. And that can happen. Now, for life in the tank, I decided I'd name everything just real fast. Sorry, this video might be a little lengthy, but I don't care. You can click off at any time, right? This is green star polyp. You are probably familiar with that. Obviously, pulsating xenia, Kenya tree, standard. Here we've got some clove polyps. Those are pretty cool. A gorgonian, photosynthetic type. I'm not sure what exact variety it is. And we've got a little candy cane coral down here. I thought he was dead. He was buried in the sand upside down, and then he popped out one day from some form of life moving him, and there he is, man. He's alive, and well, I'll probably end up gluing him up here eventually. Got a tiny jawbreaker with some white on it. I've never seen that before. I'm hoping it'll grow out nice with it. Got some red mushrooms scattered throughout. I'm sure there's plenty at the back. Some nice little red macroalgae. It just kind of showed up and it's growing, so that's cool. Got the fern caulerpa, everyone's favorite macroalgae. It has not gone sexual on me this time, although it looks like it kind of wants to. I'll keep a close eye on that. It sometimes becomes milky in here, but I think that's because of the spawning from my snail. And that clears up, by the way, so I'm not sure if the corals eat it or whatnot, but it disappears a lot of the time. It's hard to see with the flow. Oh, there he is. I have a carpet anemone in here. He's pretty sweet. I sometimes feed him, but I haven't for a long time, and he's doing great, so I might just stop doing that. And there's another anemone over here. That is a black widow, rose bubble tip. It's pretty sweet, tiny, but it fits into the Pico just nice. So we'll leave it. And I'm pretty sure I've covered everything. Look how pretty that is. Wouldn't you want this on your office desk? Right, now let's talk about equipment. As I said, it's not a typical JBJ, although it looks exactly like their 3-gallon Pico. This Pico tank is a glowfish tank, and I actually got it used for about $10 on LetGo, or your local listings, you know, classifieds we call them. And the pumps we're technically free because we've had fountains throughout my life, and I just kind of stole all of them and cleaned them up real good and threw them in. And obviously the tank had some, and you know, this tank had one that I stole because it's freshwater, and freshwater doesn't need flow. I'm cycling this tank, and I just have plants and decaying matter in there. There may be a mosquito fish floating around in there somewhere. I'm planning to put some beta in there, maybe 1 or 2. But again, I think the 3 gallon's a little small, so maybe I'll hold off on that and just do snails. As far as lighting goes, you probably noticed, or maybe you haven't because it looks so nice. That's not an expensive one there. It's from the brand you've probably seen a few times here on YouTube and on Amazon, called Nano. Nano is an affordable option, knockoff alternative, I'd say, to like Coral Life and other brands of such. Excuse me. However, this tank is growing SPS corals in 3 gallons of salt water. By the way, I top this off every day. I'm able to. Some of you might not be able to. Honestly, on camera, I think that's a UV bulb right there. I can see a little bit of purple poking through. I could totally be wrong there, but yeah, something in this light makes it capable of growing SPS corals. I mean, if you hold your hand underneath it for a period of time, hand gets warm in seconds. Not a par meter by any means, but that's a good indicator if your light is capable of growing corals or not. Whereas this one, for freshwater, yes, it is dimmed out a little bit, fell in water years ago. But look, it's cold. There's no par coming out of there. Well, there is, but I promise you, a coral wouldn't do so hot in there. It's just white light. Whereas you have a whole row of white and 2 rows of blue. I run 10% white along 100% blue. And this light is $15 on Amazon, and it comes with a timer. You know, I run it from 8 to 7 every day. So 11 hours full light, but it ramps up and down, so technically it's about 7 hours. Awesome light. I can't say enough good about it. I wish I could make a review video on it, and I probably will do that at some point, but I don't think I've had it for long enough to say for sure. It's growing corals though. Now let's talk about, what else do I want to talk about? This tank is so simple, there's not much to talk about. I guess carbon. I have it in a little bag here. This is a Lee's Media bag from that company. And there's ROX 8.0 carbon. Is that what that is? I forget what type of carbon I put in here. It's bulk reef supply, you know, the beads. I run it in my carbon reactor. Anyway, I put it in the bag a little bit, put it right at the inlet of this pump, so when water is forced into the pump, it is forced to drag by the carbon. Not the most efficient thing in the universe, but I bet you that it's removing something from this water. Now, a few things I want to touch up on. Obviously, keep it really, really dirty to an extent when you're not running any fish in the tank. You've got to be careful of vacuuming the sand bed, for example, because you could easily bottom out your nitrates and phosphates and have a cyano outbreak. But let's see, what's in the return chamber here? Oh my goodness, is that a bubble tip anemone? Anyways, we got ourselves a little beta heater heating this thing. No temperature control whatsoever, no ink bird, nothing. Just a beta heater. I think it keeps it as close as it can, at least, to around I think it claimed 85, but here, let's know for sure. Trusty old Hannah. Pretty salty in there. I usually don't like running it this salty, but it's because I've been doing water changes from my 90 gallon. That's the other thing. If you're not able to diligently top off your water, you can go ahead and run a lower salinity, and that will give you a little bit more leeway with evaporation. So when it drops 2 inches, it's not gonna become the Great Salt Lake in your tank and kill everything. Now it's 76.3 degrees in here. The beta heater claimed up to 85 is where it'd keep it. Betas like to keep it around 80, 85. So do with that information what you will, but that's the temperature in this tank. I do not watch it as closely as I should. As you've seen, there's no thermometer on here. I should probably go ahead and get one, but it's really functioning on its own. I guess I'll keep you updated on how this goes. Again, these are literally just frags from my main display, and this is kind of a quarantine tank, and it became a Pico Reef that I'm just obsessed with, man. What else can I say?